Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I know I told you guys I would actually do a build list of how I boosted my Integra for less than $500, and I'm going to do that right now because I'm a man of my word. So I'm going to say the prices here, I'm going to say with and without tax, it did actually come out more than $500. So when I put the pencil and pen to the paper, I realized, oh, I was off. So sorry, it costed $596. $96 over budget. I know. It's terrible. But that is without tax. With tax, tax was roughly 12.55%. Came out to about $670, and that was just the average tax. A lot of these parts come from California, so. But still, that is a boosted Honda for less than $1,000, so I'm pretty happy with it. The average kit on eBay, and that doesn't even include like an ECU adapter, head studs, gasket set, data log hardware, which I already factored into that $596 price. But the average cheaper side eBay kit goes for $750. So that's $153.97 in savings. And you get to choose your own parts. Because like an eBay kit, it has everything included in the kit, where you don't get to pick the parts, it's just all there. Well, I picked the little individual things. Like I picked which header I want. I picked which boost controller I want. I picked which oil feed line I wanted. And there was some learning along the way too. I've never built a boosted car till now. But I really like the selectivity, and that $153 of savings you can invest towards like an AFR gauge or something like that. So I actually have the full list here, and I'm just going to price out everything individually. Well, first I'm going to actually say what I didn't have to buy, because another way I save money here is I've been a Honda guy since like 2017, 2018, so I've accumulated and gotten rid of and accumulated parts over time. So what I didn't have to buy, it's actually not installed in the car yet, but I'm going to take it for my track car, is a Walbro 255 fuel pump. I already had one. Those cost roughly $70. A chipped ECU, I already had one, just a chipped P28. Those go for roughly $200, give or take $50 out there. I'm not doing Honda, nothing against it, but I'm just kind of going the more OG route. Things are cheaper that way, using Honda Tuning Suite and whatnot. No hate on Honda, and actually we'll be tuning my buddy Dalton's B20B soon on that. Wideband, I already had one. Well, I'm borrowing it from my buddy Dalton's car. Those go for $185. Remember that money I said saved earlier from pricing out my own kit? That's pretty much a free wideband right there. Custom breather. You probably can't see it. But if you go back in the channel, yeah, I'm not even going to, no, just let it be. If you go back on the channel, you know in the back of the block where you put the ports in with the 10A-AN? Well, I just drilled out a hole and welded to the actual block off ports, just a piece of pipe, and just made my own breather. And it doesn't work as good as the Dash 10ANs because the Dash 10ANs are just bigger, but it still worked fine, and I saw it working. Yes, this thing was overflowing oil, but that's because I filled up the crankcase like 1.5 quart extra. I use the OEM map sensor because I plan on running less than 10 pounds of boost on this thing, even though we did run more. And the OEM map sensor is like a 1.75 bar sensor, so that's good up to like 10, 11 pounds. This sensor is capping at 10.85. I don't like that. I'm setting boost cut at like 10.5, and I'm going to set my wastegate for 9 pounds on this. And a catch can. I had a catch can sitting around that I just used, but I wasn't that happy with it. So I actually just did buy one on eBay recently, and that cost me $20. When I built this thing, I was penny pinching as hard as I could. But I did save a good amount of money with just some stuff I had laying around. And maybe not all you guys have that stuff laying around, so that's just what I had laying around. So that's how I was able to do this for less than $600. So let me actually go through the individual pricings here. So I went kind of a unique alternative route. This thing is actually tuned on an eBay SST chip, but I did factor in the price here an actual reprogrammable chip. because hindsight, I really wish I went that route. And that's one of the reasons this got a little bit more expensive over the $500 margin, because when you get those SST chips that are non-reprogrammable, you're just gonna, in the long run, spend more money, because you got, especially when you're new and you're street tuning yourself, you're just reprogramming over and over and over. Get a retunable chip. So I have it actually coming in the mail. It's from Boosted Northwest. They have a 2-timer chip. So it's the same thing, just you can put 2 different tunes on it at the flip of a switch. And that cost me $54.82. I had to get a 2.5 inch to 2 inch turbo silicone 90 adapter. So that's just a silicone adapter that comes off the cold side of the turbo here and into the intercooler piping. The universal kit I got, it was all just 2.5 inch, so it wouldn't go on the outlet of this turbo properly. And that cost me $8.58. I had to get a 90-degree 2.5 inch. Okay, so a downpipe. I actually ordered a 3-inch downpipe and realized that was too big. This is a 2.5 inch, so I had to order another one. So I didn't factor the 3-inch into the cost, but the 2-inch downpipe cost me $37.58, V-band style. This is on eBay head studs. I wish I had more runs on this, to be honest, to really give the eBay head studs a good solid review. But I mean, we ran a lot of boost through this thing. I don't know how high it got, but the head's still there. Doesn't have any, the coolant's in the coolant, and the oil's in the oil. Like, it ran fine for the couple days we drove it and beat on it. So eBay head studs cost me only $49.38. Not hating on ARP, and in fact, if this was a build I really cared about, I really would run ARP head studs, but this is just an eBay sponsored build pretty much. It came great. I guess minus really not being sponsored. Intake manifold thermal gasket. This is optional. I spent $22.54 on that. So that's just a gasket that goes in between the cylinder head and the intake manifold, and it's this like polyurethane gasket or whatever it's made of, and it's reusable, so in the long run you save money from it. I like them. They're just really good for sealing, especially gouged surfaces. They just seal up really good. B18B1 full gasket kit, eBay special. That cost me $64.37. Again, I could have just used the paper intake manifold gasket from that kit, but I didn't want to do that. I do tend to like to use the thermal gaskets. OBD1 Bluetooth data logger. So that cost me $38.55. If you have a chipped ECU, pretty much all of them are just plug and play. I just put it down into the data log slots on the ECU. And that way I could just connect it right to my computer, or I can connect it right to my phone through the TunerView app and just see all the data. There were some bugs I had to work out with it, but it was nothing a couple YouTube videos couldn't fix in the afternoon. I have to get an FTDI adapter, so I had to program the data logger. The FTDI adapter, you get the data logger and you hook up the FTDI, oh my gosh. You hook up the adapter to the data logger, and the data logger just comes dumb. It comes completely blank, and you have to program a program into it. Plenty of videos online. I got it programmed within 5 minutes, and it worked flawlessly. You just had to set it to the proper COM ports and whatnot on whatever tuning software you're using. If you guys want me to get more into this, I can make another separate video on how I set up the data logging, how I set up this, how I wired up the wideband. I recorded a lot of this stuff, and I decided to edit it out because my videos were just getting way too long. I'm like, no one's going to want to watch this. But yeah, that data logger adapter cost me $12.26. I had to get a harness adapter. So the INTEGRA, she's a 98, so that's OBD2A. And I had to adapt that to my P28 ECU, and that is an OBD-D1. I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with those. Those go for $17.50. Boost controller, I probably wouldn't have bought one. Hindsight, I probably would have just did something else. I really was hoping this wastegate I was just going to run this at whatever this gate opens on this turbo. They usually open at 8 PSI, but the way I have it like mocked up in there, the linkage is bent, so it's not opening when it should. But a cheapo eBay boost controller cost me $8.97. They kind of have a bad reputation, so I really wouldn't advise on running them. But I wanted to keep this under $500 something, and under 600 I should say, and I was able to do that by doing all this. Universal intercooler kit. I saved a good amount of money here, and I got a lot of extra parts from it. I could probably do another intercooler kit on another Honda with all the parts I have. That cost me, and it was a 2.5 inch intercooler kit. That cost me $136.33. Ram horn header right here. This actually has a mount for a wastegate on it, and I will put an external wastegate on it if I can't get this internal one to work properly. This header here cost me $68.71, and all these prices I'm telling you here are after tax, by the way. The actual turbo, this is a gated turbo. This is just a hybrid T3, T4 turbo. Actually, I don't know. I'm gonna be honest, I'm still learning my turbo stuff. But this turbo, it's a gated turbo. It cost me $108.44. I believe it's like a 6476 mil. I don't know. It spools in about 3,500 RPM. It's a journal bearing turbo, of course, eBay special. Let me grab another parts list here because the parts list just kept going. So the turbo oil feed and drain, that cost me $29.92. So that's the feed that goes into here. It comes with an adapter. You attach it to the back of the block where your oil pressure sensor is. The feed goes in here, and then the return, it comes with the return fitting that screws into the bottom of the turbo, and then it goes into the oil pan. And the problem with these kits is they come with a aluminum return bung for your oil pan, and we don't, like, this is a steel pan, you can't weld them together. So what I did, I didn't factor this into the price, but I actually just got a hydraulic fitting like that you would get for tractors and welded it to the pan. They're very similar to AN fittings, but I couldn't get any of my AN fittings to line up because the way I put this fitting on this oil pan, I should have put it over here like the Moroso pans have their bungs, but I put it right here, and I just could not clock an AN fitting for the life of me without kinking the line. So this is actually a piece of radiator hose. I wouldn't recommend doing it, but it has worked for me so far. But that is my oil return right there. I did not factor this into the price because you didn't have to, but this is something extra I wanted to do. This is a 1/4 inch turbo oil adapter fitting bobulator. It is a 1/4 inch like FIP to whatever, I can't remember it. But I didn't like how this oil feed line was coming in straight, because then the line would then have to bend and it'd be rubbing on the header, and I wasn't about that. Oil on a really hot header is just a fire hazard waiting to happen. I know a lot of guys aren't like that, but I didn't want to run it like that. So I have a 1/4 inch adapter that then runs this around. I actually had to get this adapter at a specialty hydraulic store, and it only cost me $3. But if any of you guys are wondering what this adapter is, drop in the comments below and I'll give you the name of it. I just can't remember it off the top of my head. And a universal blow-off valve. That's in the car at the moment. The car is pushed outside. And that was just a nice one that can just push in to the couplings and whatnot on your intercooler piping. And it did come with an actual weld-on portion too, but I just wanted the simplicity of coupling it all on. It doesn't look pretty, but it works. And that cost me $35.43. So the total of everything I just told you, this pricing with tax included, cost me about $670. Now without tax, it cost me $596. The average eBay kit, like I said, it goes for $750, and it doesn't even come with everything I did to put this together. So there's that. Take it as you will. There's a lot of good eBay kits out there. I just am a penny pincher, and the motto of this build was to save as much money as possible. And honestly, it was worth it. For all that work I went through, $153 savings, totally worth it. So now my general synopsis here of how this all played out. I am pleasantly pleased with the build. I had to do extra things though that most of you guys won't have to. All the major issues I ran into with actually putting this together weren't even engine related. It was just getting the engine to sit in the car. This car has been auto to manual swapped. Auto transmission sitting right there. It's literally, we swapped it like last month. And I tried to make some custom homemade mounts, and it just didn't work. It turned out horribly. And actually the rear T-bracket, the bolt fell out, and the engine was just, it was like pried against the rear subframe in the T-bracket, and that's why the engine, it actually held it in there good, but it wasn't held in there right. So all the issues I ran into this build were more self-done ones, but honestly, all these eBay parts, I got no complaints. I've only ran them for about a day and a half. I'll probably give a month synopsis once I get this back in the car and I actually daily drive it, my opinion on it, and then I'll probably give like a year synopsis if this engine's still in this format, because I love wrenching on things. But so far it worked good. It worked flawlessly, no real issues. One thing I recommend you guys is actually take your stuff and bring it to a reputable tuner. Just for liability reasons I'm saying this, obviously. I'm street tuning this myself, but if you want to do it, take it to a guy that actually knows his stuff. Injectors on this rig, I am using the stock 240cc injectors. If I run low boost, I might be able to squeeze that by, but the thing is, as soon as I get this actually shaken and baking, I'm going to install some decapped LS truck injectors into this and run E85. But I want to tune it on 91 first, just so I can really get a good feel for it. That's just a whole other debacle. I'm not even going to get into the fuel injector flowing and whatnot, because I triggered a lot of people on one of my shorts about that, and not all of them were exactly wrong. I didn't explain some things properly as I should, but they work and people have been doing them, and I will make a video on how I'm going to make those properly flow on this engine. But overall, this build was super cheap and easy. I just slowly pieced it together, and I made some things work. Another thing that worked out to my favor is I already had this XD stage 2, or I think it's a stage 2 clutch. It's just what the car came with, or the transmission came with. That's another thing you guys might have to buy. You might have to buy an aftermarket clutch. I don't know how well the OEM ones hold up to boost. Besides that, it's been a good engine for the day and a half I drove it. Before, me being me, I pulled it all out right away, because whenever I work on engines, these Hondas are so easy to take the engines out. I just pull them all out, and even to just do the simplest things. The reason I pulled the engine out was because I want to put the AN fittings on the back of this for the catch can, and I did not want to deal with that lying underneath the car, and I already had to pull the transmission out to rebuild parts of that. The differential blew up on that. That's another story. It's not related to this. It was already blown up before the turbo incident. But yeah, so sorry this video is a little long-winded. If I explained anything not properly, just drop in the comments below and I'll try and clear it up. I hope this video helps you guys out. It's 2025 and you could still boost a Honda cheaply and affordably. I can't say reliably yet because I only ran this for like 2 days, but in those 2 days it was running strong, minus the transmission falling out of the car, but that's my fault. But anyways, guys, thank you for watching the video. I hope this video helps some other tuners out there, and y'all have a good one.